The rain fell steadily that morning, not in angry sheets but in a quiet, relentless way, as if the sky itself was mourning. Black umbrellas filled the cemetery, forming a sea of polished grief. Expensive suits darkened as the water soaked through them, yet no one moved. They stood in silence to bury Adrian Kingswell, a billionaire known across America for his wealth, his power, and his carefully curated public image. He had owned skyscrapers, companies, politicians' loyalty, and yet, as the priest prepared to speak, there was a strange emptiness in the air. Adrian Kingswell, the man who had everything, was being laid to rest without a single genuine tear from most of those present. The priest lifted his hand to begin the final prayer when a harsh, broken voice ripped through the stillness like thunder. "She's not dead." Gasps spread through the crowd. Heads turned in unison. At the rusted iron gate of the cemetery stood a man no one recognized or expected to see. He was soaked to the bone, rainwater dripping from his hair and beard, his orange sanitation vest stained with mud. His chest rose and fell rapidly, as if he had run miles without stopping. His eyes were wide, frantic, burning with a desperation that clashed violently with the controlled, elegant sorrow around him. "She's not dead," he shouted again, his voice cracking. "You can't bury her. You have to stop this funeral." Security guards reacted instantly, offended and alert. This was not just any funeral. This was Adrian Kingswell's farewell. Who did this garbage collector think he was? Hands grabbed his arms, trying to drag him away. Murmurs of anger and disbelief rippled through the mourners. At the front of the crowd, Adrian's daughter, Evelyn Kingswell, lifted her head. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen from weeks of crying. She had already buried her father in her heart. Doctors had confirmed it. Reports had been signed. The media had announced it. Everything was final, or so she believed. "Wait," Evelyn said quietly, raising her hand. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The guards froze. Against logic, against reason, against grief itself, she looked at the trembling man and said, "Let him speak." The man swallowed hard, his throat tight with fear and urgency. "My name is Jonah Miller," he said. "I work the night sanitation routes near the Kingswell estate." He hesitated, then pushed on. "2 nights ago, I found something in the trash. Medical supplies. Sealed. And used. That's when I knew something was wrong." The crowd fell silent. Rain pattered softly against umbrellas as every word hung in the air. "I've seen Mr. Kingswell before," Jonah continued. "Not the version you all know from magazines and television. I saw him months ago when he was alone." Evelyn felt her chest tighten. "One night," Jonah said, his voice shaking, "I found him sitting outside his own estate. He was sick, barely breathing. Cars drove past him like he didn't exist. Guards ignored him, but I stopped." Jonah clenched his fists. "I helped him. I called a friend of mine, she used to be a nurse. She checked him and told me something I'll never forget. He has a rare condition, one that can slow the body so much it looks like death. A pulse you can barely feel. Breathing almost impossible to detect. He needed careful treatment, not to be rushed away." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the crowd. "They rushed him," Jonah said quietly. "Too fast. Either someone made a terrible mistake, or someone didn't want him alive." Evelyn's heart pounded so hard she thought she might collapse. "Are you saying," she whispered, "that my father is alive?" Jonah nodded once. "I believe he was. And I believe he still might be." Chaos erupted. Phones came out. Voices rose. The priest stepped back as the ceremony was halted instantly. The casket was sealed and rushed away, escorted by a private medical team brought in under emergency authority. Hours passed in agonizing uncertainty. Then the impossible happened. Adrian Kingswell took a breath. The news spread across the country like wildfire. Headlines screamed what no one thought they would ever read. Billionaire declared dead, found alive after funeral halted. Adrian Kingswell was alive, weak, fragile, but breathing. Days later, when Adrian finally opened his eyes in a quiet hospital room, the first face he saw wasn't Evelyn's. It wasn't a lawyer or a business partner. It was Jonah. "You," Adrian whispered hoarsely. "You came back." Jonah smiled, sadness and relief mixing in his eyes. "You helped me once, sir," he said softly. "I just returned the favor." Tears slipped down Adrian's face as memory stirred. Years ago, before Jonah wore an orange vest, before the streets had taken everything from him, he had been sleeping behind dumpsters. One cold night, a drunk, broken billionaire had sat beside him. Adrian had shared a meal. He had listened. He had helped Jonah find work. It meant nothing to him then, but it meant everything to Jonah. As Adrian recovered, the truth began to surface. Someone close, someone trusted, someone powerful had rushed the death declaration to seize control of his empire. Boardrooms filled with people who had already divided his fortune in their minds. Lawsuits followed. Threats followed. The stress nearly killed him again. But this time, Adrian wasn't alone. Jonah stayed. He reminded Adrian of the man he used to be, before the money, before the isolation. A man who once helped a stranger without cameras or applause. Adrian made a decision that stunned the world. He stepped down. He handed control of his empire to ethical leadership and redirected most of his wealth into hospitals, shelters, and medical research, especially for rare conditions like his own. He offered Jonah everything: money, a house, power. Jonah refused most of it. "I just want honest work," he said. "And dignity." Adrian insisted on one thing. Jonah would lead a foundation dedicated to the invisible people society throws away. The same people Jonah once stood among. Months later, Adrian visited a waste management center. No cameras, no press, just handshakes and quiet respect. "I was almost buried alive," Adrian told the workers. "Because people stopped seeing me as human." Don't ever let that happen to anyone. The billionaire who nearly died at his own funeral became a symbol of humility. And the garbage collector who stopped it all reminded the world of a powerful truth. Heroes don't always wear suits. Sometimes they wear orange vests. If this story touched you, reminded you to look twice at the people society ignores, or made you believe in kindness and second chances, share your thoughts below. Support true stories by and remember, kindness can save a life.